Oh, baby, baby.
What up?
What is up, everybody? Welcome to my channel. With me is a very special guest for me. I'm a huge fucking fan, Mr. Limon, everybody.
Fuck! Trying to get a cigar going.
I told him he had to have the cigar ready for tonight.
And that's also why I'm outside. Ah!
Motherfucker, how are you?
You know-
How do you survive this life?
That's why I'm outdoors, is because my wife, now because of like COVID and like we have to be in the house together all day, I can't smoke indoors anymore because it was like driving her nuts.
You kind of had an outdoor scene when you were doing your Live at the Bike call-in show anyway. It was like kind of like the same background.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Limon is in the house.
The funny part about the scene behind me, and when I used to do the show, little known fact, it was in the house when I bought it, and I just liked it. I loved it because it's so weird. Like, it was a scene of a lake, and it's Lake Arrowhead. We sort of surmised through a lot of like looking at different pictures, and they had connected little birds and trees and pine cones to it, like the people who lived here before me. But then I'd put it, I just loved it. I don't know why I loved it, but I put it as my background, right? Obviously, when I used to do the show. And then later I was watching Twin Peaks, which is a show that I've always loved. And every now and then I go back and watch it.
I love Twin Peaks too.
And it's the background in David Lynch's office. The exact same thing in every way.
That's amazing.
And there's no possible way that the people who lived here before me were David Lynch fans. No, 0% chance. It was like a 80-year-old Hispanic woman and her like mentally disabled child or something, and the husband had died. They were really old. There's no fucking way that they had designed that room decades and decades before, you know, because of a David Lynch from Twin Peaks.
Did you watch the third season by any chance?
Oh, everything David Lynch has ever done, I've watched every second of it. Even stuff that's hard to get through, like a San Bernardino, what's that one, like Inland Empire.
See, now I know why I get you, why I like you. It's that weirdness.
Sometimes I'll post like one of his mantras on my Twitter, but I won't say like what it is, and people will be like, "What the fuck is that?" Like where he says like, "Through will alone, I set my mind in motion. My lips are stained by the juice of Sappho. The stains are a warning. Through will alone, I set my mind in motion." Like, I'll put one of these little things up there, and you're like, "What the fuck is that?" It's like, oh, that's a funny David Lynch mantra, because he's like really into like transcendental meditation. I think those are some of his mantras.
Yeah, well, you can tell based off of Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Well, at least the first two seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't finish the third season. I got through like 4 episodes and then got a divorce. I haven't gone. then I haven't looked again.
If you're, I mean, it's one of those things where like, you have to sort of really be into it, because he does not make it easy on the audience.
Yeah.
Like, I watched a show the other night by Charlie Kaufman, a movie by Charlie Kaufman. Charlie Kaufman, I mean, I might be wrong about this, but he's an interesting guy. Like, he did like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and Being John Malkovich.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think those are his 2 other movies. And then this one's like really fucking hard to follow. Like, it's very David Lynch-ish. And it sort of helped me get like how people feel when they watch David Lynch but don't really want to like do the work. Because after I was through with it, I'm like, wow, there was a lot going on in that. I just don't have time to figure it out.
It's kind of like Memento, right? You gotta like almost take notes and pay attention, and try to figure things out and what different things mean. Yeah,
it's a puzzle.
I like that complex life. Yeah. You know, it's like watching you talk about hands on Live at the Bike. So for those of you who may not know, Limon is you were I think one of the owners, right, of Live at the Bike, and you and Nicole did Live at the Bike commentary for years together.
Hello and welcome to the Bicycle Casino. You are watching Live at the Bike, brought to you by Joker Gaming. I'm Nicole Juergens, and our special guest host tonight is Limon.
Just what Rick and Barstow was waiting for. Oh, can it get any worse? The pain.
And we also started Poker Central.
I did not know that.
Yeah, we were the first show on Poker Central.
Was your call-in show, which, by the way, your call-in show was amazing, and I had a moment on your call-in show where Roger Bailey and I had
it was great.
Twitter war, and you brought us on the show, and I yelled at him for like an hour.
That was epic. That was one of the best episodes. Like, everybody loved that.
I kind of hammed it up. I hammed it up for your show. I just, brought out the drama. It was fun.
You know how to make something entertainment. Otherwise, you wouldn't have that hair.
Shut the fuck up. Speak for yourself, buddy.
Hey, the carpet matches the drapes here.
Well, if I had carpet, I'd let you know.
Touche.
So now everyone knows why I love Limon. So, talk to us about Live at the Bike and what the fuck happened to you?
I guess some people don't know this story, but anybody, it's basically like what happens to me with everything. I only operate at one speed. I only operate at my speed. I don't blame it on other people. It's all on me. Like, I do things the way I'm going to do it and only the way I'm going to do it. And at some point, it almost always ends up not working out.
So did you leave, or were you asked to leave? I thought you owned it.
I did, but when you own something, it doesn't, I was a partner. So there was me and there was three other owners. Nicole, sort of. She it might've been right at the end of her being an owner. No, she wasn't an owner still. So she had sold her shares to Feldman. And, when the other owners want you out, obviously you can fight, but I would have if it was necessary, but I was basically like, well, how much are you going to pay me? And they came up with a really good number, and the people who wanted to buy my shares, Dan Zach and JJ De La Garza, came up with a really good number. And so then I'm like, well, it's easier to quit than fight.
So I thought Wayne bought part of your shares too.
No,
I
not
didn't know
Wayne.
Danzak did.
Wayne was going to. Wayne would have been, but they just outbid him. That was the great thing about it. There was a little bidding war. So that got me a really good price. I'm gonna grab it. I'm not leaving. I'm just.
No, you do you, Limon. I'm here for you.
This was my margarita was out of my reach, which is.
I don't want that margarita. Damn, that's a tall margarita. How many shots in there?
I don't know. I just take the bottle and dump until it tastes good.
That's one thing I liked about you was you just did your own thing. You just dance to the beat of your own drum. You just don't give a fuck.
Yeah. It's like when people say how do you tell if somebody's a winning poker player? It's like, do they ever compromise? They're not a winning poker player.
Damn, really?
Winning poker player, there's just never any reason to compromise. Like, you can't take that away from me. Like, I'm gonna go to the casino and make money. You can never take it away from me. So I'm just not gonna be anybody's bitch. I'm gonna do what I want.
So, talk to me about Nicole. Are you and Nicole still close?
Yeah, Nicole's great. Nicole's probably, I don't want to couch it as female, but one of the best poker commentators, in my opinion. She's funny and smart and fast and actually plays for a living. Yeah. She's seen it all, and she's a cool cucumber. I remember one time, I don't know what stories I should tell, but this is a public story, so it shouldn't be bad.
Tell us a private one too after.
No, that's not we're playing in a 5-10 with a Mississippi style, so it's 5-10-20 no limit game at Bicycle Club, and there's this old guy named Papa. And Papa is like now who knows? He might be dead. I don't know. Somebody told me he was dead. I don't know if it's true. I always liked him, and Nicole sort of liked him too, but he was this very special character. And he really did not like female poker players. He felt like it was not acceptable. So he's very old Armenian, very traditional. And Nicole had beaten him 3 times in a row out of big pots because he's a very bad player, obviously. And he started going like, "Why are you here? Are you a whore? Because there's only one reason that you would be here. You must be a whore. Because a girl who is not a whore would not be in a casino right now." And Nicole is just fucking stacks the chips. "Oh, Papa, you're hilarious. Deal the cards, deal the cards."
Money is the bottom line.
Yeah, and it's not, this is again not about women or men. It's like most people, even professional poker players, break in those spots and ruin the game for everybody. And Nicole is just like, "Fuck it, deal the cards, deal the cards.
Just give me my fucking money, bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Is this the guy? I think they were tweeting about someone like this. Is this the guy who said, "Back in my country, women are not allowed in the casino"?
Oh yeah, always he would say stuff like that. One time he told a guy that he didn't like anybody basically. I mean, me and him had a really good relationship, but like most people didn't have a very good relationship with him. He told one guy, he said, "You are not born from your mother's pussy. You were born from her ass." And he stands up and he starts spreading his butt cheeks apart.
That's amazing. He sounds like a great VIP.
He's one of the king VIPs of all VIPs. And people will say like, "Oh, that's what's wrong with live poker." And for me, it's like, no, that's what's right with live poker for me. It's like, he is paying us all $1,000 an hour probably at the rate he lost money just to be an ass. Who fucking cares? You know?
So I played, actually, despite what everyone thinks, I played in a 25-50 game once and a whale bought me in.
Right.
And everyone was pandering to this whale to the point where I kind of felt uneasy about it. Do you think there's a line? So this whale threw a pancake against the wall. He threw up on himself at the table. He went to the bathroom, did some coke, came back, threw up on himself some more, went outside and threw up, kept drinking.
Yes.
And it almost felt predatory. And
Well, it is predatory.
so, like, what do you think about situations like that? Like, to me, I was really uneasy about it.
Well, there's obviously a line, but this is the important part if you're a professional poker player. If you're a professional poker player and you're a winning poker player, like I said earlier, you don't got to take any shit off anybody or do anything you don't want to do. But you should not, and so like if you feel like a situation's out of hand or you don't feel comfortable with a situation, racking up your chips and leaving that's your right, and you should never think twice about it. But ruining it for the other people is not acceptable. That's what's not acceptable, because the other people have different thresholds of pain. And the guy who is throwing the party might be doing exactly what he wants to do, and it's not your job to fuck it up, you know? There are situations, obviously, where a table could be such that I didn't want to play at it anymore. But I never, ever once thought about grandstanding.
What about if the player's like incoherent? Like, I thought this player was way too drunk and high on coke.
Yeah, it gets like a little date rapey at some point.
I mean, kind of, yeah.
I guess, but maybe I've never quite been in that situation. They usually, here's the reason why. Here's why I say that. Yes, I've been around people who are incoherent, drunk, doing all kinds of crazy shit. But, and many, many times, maybe in my life, 100 times, I'm going to say in 30 of those times, they fucking felt it, everybody. And they ain't giving it back. They're not fucking giving it back, it is what it is. If it's
I
in the
guess
game,
like
it's in the game.
that was the most extreme example I've ever been a part of. This guy ended up going broke, and
Right.
you know, the game revolved around this whale for a couple of years, and then he went broke, sober or not.
That's the
So it
way
was
it
bound to
usually
happen.
works. Yeah, but you got to treat the whale with respect, like in a certain way. Like you can't just assume that you know what's going on, because people spend money on a lot of different things, and they have a lot of different things that make them happy. And for some people, that's they're climbing Mount Everest, or they're fucking going on vacation, or they're whatever. These rich people, I don't ever try to like prejudge like why they act in the horrible ways that they act. What I say is like, this is my job. I'm good at it. I'm just gonna keep doing it. Head down, do it.
And you're talking about being the host, because you host some
Yeah,
games, right?
right. Yeah,
You're still
hosting the
hosting
game.
games?
Well, you can't now.
Well, I mean, like, if it wasn't for COVID. You
If
guys
it
don't
wasn't,
have any casinos open at all?
no, nothing.
When
And
the
I'm not
casinos open back up, are you going to host the games?
probably, but not guaranteed. I mean, it just depends on how I feel. Like, I don't know. I'm basically retired, so like I do it because it's like a social club in a way for me. Like, it's sort of like Cheers, where everybody knows your name and they're always glad you came. It's like if I don't show up for a couple of days, like all the regulars like fucking just blowing up my phone, like fucking get over here, Limon. We're bored, You make the game fun, and so like it is sort of fun to have a group of friends, even if some of the people really aren't your friends, and some of the people, you got to understand. I mean, you maneuver the situation. It is still gambling, but as a social club, I'll probably end up doing it just because golf probably just isn't enough for me to do. I probably like gonna need something else. Otherwise, I golf. Like right now, all I do is golf, cook, and garden, and like those three things, I probably need to add a fourth. But I can't because you can't do anything.
This is the speech from a man who has too much money, ladies and gentlemen. So I want to ask you, because I feel like you're at the pinnacle of poker players in this area, and I feel like I've met a lot of poker players who don't know how to fucking socialize in poker, and they get pissed off that they get pushed out of private games,
Right.
that they're not invited to things, that they call in and they think they're the top 10 on the list, and they end up 25th on the list when they get to
Right.
the casino, and they don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to socialize within poker. Talk to me about that. Because you're running these private games, or you're running these invite only games.
Right.
What does it take to be that poker player, to be successful?
Basically, you have to be willing. You have to be a sport. Okay. There's a thing in gambling that nobody really knows about anymore, and it's called being a sport. Okay. So there's some people who are like really fucking good at being a sport, and there's some people who are horrible at it. And like there's the guy you probably know, Billy DJF. Like he's like one of the kings at like being a sport.
Is he in LA?
He travels around. He has a podcast now. He's a rounder. He's like a little legitimate rounder. Goes from game to game to game, and basically never gets thrown out. My other friend Bryce Yoki, really good at like being sports. Like the key to being a sport is you can't just say no to everything that might be negative EV.
Right.
You don't have to say yes every time. You don't have to turn yourself into another Mark, but you can't always say no. And when you have something that's basically a flip, you have to go big, okay? So you can be a sport by like putting out straddles, or you don't have to. Now listen to me. I don't want to like give people the wrong idea. I guess I'll get to it. You can be a sport by doing flips. You could be a sport by betting on the basketball game. You just have to do some sporty things. Like you have to do just enough sporty things that like, if everybody's buying a shot, you buy shots. Like you're not really losing much because everybody got a shot. Like you got to do a few sporty things, and a few sporty things will sort of keep you in action forever. And it's not just about staying, for me personally, like, it's not just about staying in action at poker. Like, I've never thought of poker as what I do for a living. What I do for a living is advantage play. So if you're a sport, you're also going to get good golf matches. If you're a sport, you're also going to be able to book as many bets as you want. If you're a sport, then you take $50,000 in trump action, right? When nobody else, when everybody else is like, how do I get action down? It just all comes, like, things just come to you. If you're a sport, you get the cut of the rake. If you're a sport, like, a lot of shit comes your direction. Because in the casino industry, a lot of people will go to a manager of a casino or an owner, and they'll say, like, I can get you a poker game, or I can get you a baccarat game, because there's hosts for all these things. And most of them are full of shit, right? They really can't. But if you can actually do it, if you can walk up to the owner of a casino, or in LA, you basically talk to the owners. In Las Vegas, you probably talk to several layers below, because they're publicly traded companies. But in LA, if you can walk up to the owner of a fucking casino and say, do you want a game right there on that empty table? The guy's gonna be like, sure, buddy. You make a deal. And then when the game actually happens, you're like a god. You're literally a god, because so many people say they can fill a game, but they can't fill a game. And then just money just flows, always just keeps flowing in your direction, because it gets around. Oh, that Limon guy, he's a sport. He's a sport. You want action on something? Talk to him. He's never, like, have you ever heard of him stiffing up somebody? No, I've never heard of it. You? No. Book it. You need somebody to escrow money? Oh, go talk to him. You know, like, once you, like, get into that once you're that guy, the amount of people that want to gamble with you is more than you can even handle. It's like fucking trying to drink out of a fire hose. So it's important to be a sport.
And the sport also, I think, goes back to what we were talking about. When the fucking asshole at the table is making misogynist comments, you just shut the fuck up and take his money, and you just don't be an asshole at the table.
That's right. Because it's like, remember, there's like the EA Sports, they had ads for like basketball or football video games, and they would say their tagline was, if it's in the game, it's in the game, right?
Right.
And that's the same with fucking gambling and playing poker. Like, if you showed up here for what I don't know what you showed up here for. If I had to talk to somebody, and sometimes I would have to take somebody aside and talk to them, it's like, I don't know what you showed up here for, but this is what you get. All right? You don't have to take it, because I wouldn't take it in certain circumstances, but you can't fuck it up for everyone else. That's the only rule of a sport. You don't have to take it. If you're a professional poker player, you don't have to fucking do anything, but you can't screw it up for everybody else, because everyone else has a different threshold of pain. And that's just the way it works.
So I have so many questions. Well, like, there are private games that run out here.
Right.
And I've talked to some of the guys who play them, and they're usually quite big, and they're full of whales.
Right.
And I tell the guys, hey, not everything should be about vacuuming up all the chips. Like, give them some action,
Right.
and let the game go on longer, because you'll kill the game. And there was a pretty big game that got killed out here because the locals were coming in, vacuuming everything up, not
Right.
giving too much action back.
Right.
And the whales lost too much money too quickly.
Right.
So these are again, when you're saying be a sport, you want to fucking give some action, right?
Yeah, it's like the old saying, you can shear a sheep many times, but you can only skin it once, you know? So if you kill the goose that's laying the golden eggs, you get whatever eggs were in the goose's, womb or whatever, but
Yeah.
you don't get any more eggs. They're all gone after that.
Yeah, when I used to host the game, I used to take everyone out for dinner. I'd buy wine for everyone. I'd get a fucking $400 tab, and people were like, holy shit. It's not even that much. And then you'd make way more than that in the game. And then everyone would want to come play. And then I'd have a 3-month wait list for my game because, everyone enjoyed themselves. That's what it was about.
And if you're really sharp and you're like open, there's no such thing as a whale who just plays poker. They all gamble a lot. on everything. And if you are in their good graces, they'll gamble with you on everything.
Yeah.
And that's like, sometimes that's where the real money comes in. Because in a poker game, you have to share with 8 other people. But in other stuff, you don't share with anybody. So it's just always good to be like that guy or that girl. The one that they come to when they want to gamble. Helicopter.
You got a fucking like private jet flying onto your property or something?
No, the fire sometimes, like, because I live on you can't see behind me, but it's just like sort of like woodlands. So the fire sometimes, like, there'll be somebody out there who's like, whatever, like barbecuing or made a campfire or something, and the fire helicopter will come over and be like, hey, what the fuck's going on? Because there's so much fire problems in California.
Yeah.
It used to be no one cared, but now it's like if even a little fire starts, it's like a tinderbox.
Yeah. That's the same out here. I was fucking surrounded by fires like this summer, I believe. I can't fucking remember this year. I don't know what happened. It feels like March was yesterday. I don't know what the fuck happened in 2020. Just got COVID. Made it through the entire year. Got COVID last 2 weeks. Beautiful.
So what were your like symptoms like?
Oh, I had it terrible. Started out with like runny nose, sore throat, and then I got body aches, and then I couldn't breathe. I had to go to the hospital.
Oh no.
Yeah. I didn't. My oxygen sats were fine. Yeah. You're. If water falls on you, I'll laugh.
I know exactly. No, it looks. So, what was the very first thing that you noticed? Like very, very first.
Probably sore throat.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it was a typical flu, except you can fucking breathe. And I couldn't cough anything up, and I run 4 or 5 miles a day, and
Right.
I sprint, and I'm super fit, and
Yeah.
I couldn't breathe. I can't imagine someone who's my age who hasn't worked out in 20
Right.
years, who smokes or whatever. They'd be fucked.
No, you're very fit. I see your fleets.
Oh yeah.
Fleets.
The fleets were made for me, Lyman.
I didn't even know. I'm like, okay, what's this fleet thing? Whoa, oh, that's what it is.
You know what? The fleets gave me a new purpose in life, Lyman. This is what I'm doing. I get free hoodies now.
Yeah.
I have an audition at
Yeah.
Poker Go,
There you
coming
go.
up next week.
Nice.
So I might be hosting Poker After Dark. If it wasn't for the fleets, baby, my boobs can get out there and show the world what they're all about.
If I got a fleet, I think that they would delete if I did a fleet like that, I think they'd delete my account.
I mean, they deleted your
Well, more
first
power-
account.
Yeah, more power to you.
Whatever. I'm just like, whatever. I've gotten to the point in my life where I just don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about what anyone thinks about me.
Right.
I don't give a fuck about my age. I don't give a fuck about anything. I'm just going to do me. And I love it.
I would kill to be 43 again. I'm an old man.
How old are you now?
49.
Oh my God. I had no idea. I thought you were my age.
I guess I sort of, we're Gen X, right? You're Gen X, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't fucking matter after a certain point.
We're the last of the free range kids. We're the last generation where our parents would say, be home by dark. We went away on our bike, and there was fucking no way for them to contact us.
Oh, wait. Your parents were home when you got home from school? Oh, yeah. So my parents each had 3 jobs. I'd come home from school. There'd be no one there. And I'd get on my bike and I'd be gone for 8 hours. And then when the sun came down, I'd come home.
You just have to be home by dark or they come looking for you. But
Yeah.
other than that, there's no possible way to be contacted.
Right. Yeah. I didn't have a cell phone until my late 20s. Isn't that insane?
Me neither. I'm like, why would I want that? It's like, now I got this electronic leash. My wife
and
actually made me get one.
I think like these girls, young girls, their self-esteem's fucked because of their phone. They're on social media. I didn't have all that,
Yeah. Yeah,
Which
it's
is probably
very
why
weird.
I'm in my 40s and I'm fucking feeling fantastic.
I never really cared about. I've never had like a Facebook account or any of these. But then I sort of like Twitter because you just sort of just say shit, and then like you just go wandering around, do the rest of your day, just say things. Like I sort of like that like idea of just like walking into a room, saying something and then going and playing.
I think of all the social media, Twitter is definitely my favorite. If I only could keep one, I'd keep Twitter. Facebook's garbage. I just
Right.
hate it.
Everyone
I haven't
tells me
updated my Facebook account in like years. I just use it for like marketplace here and there.
that. Right.
And I'm assuming you're not on TikTok yet.
I don't know TikTok or Instagram. I don't know how it works. I mean, they say like you got to take videos, do pictures. I don't really do that. Like, I'm not like, nobody's going to want to look at pictures of me, you know? Or you can
Yeah,
do
but we
cheap
want to
porn.
hear what you have to say. But I guess we could do that on Twitter.
On Twitter, I mean, I don't want to brag, but like, I'm very proud of my Twitter timelines going back all the way to whenever I started in like 2012 or whatever. I got banned many, many times in between. So you'd have to follow it from the Limon account, the Limon Poker account, to the whatever the next one was, like the not Limon Poker account, to the I think it was Felt Porn account, to now this account. But
Yeah,
if there was a way that you could go back through them all, you would see like I made like a whole shit ton of really good predictions, like all the way around about cryptocurrency and stocks and politics and sports bets. Like my record is like really fucking good, like even better than it is in real life, because I only post the things that I think I'm really sure about, you know? So like, I'm very proud of like my record of predicting things. And like if you just like followed like all of this fucking stupid shit I'd said along that timeline, you'd end up making a fucking bunch of money. And I made a bunch.
Now with what's predominantly taking over, Bitcoin's over 36,000 now.
Right.
What do you see happening for Bitcoin?
Well, I mean, it's a sort of a strange situation in that the Bitcoin, something like Bitcoin, has never existed in the history of the universe. Okay, I don't mean that is a good thing or a bad thing. It just never has fucking existed in the history of the universe. It's an invention, and it's sort of beautiful. It's sort of a beautiful invention in the way that it solves the double spending problem and the Byzantine generals problem. It solves all these weird little fucking problems. It's sort of a beautiful piece of code. Now, that doesn't mean it's worth anything, okay? So then you got to ask yourself, like, well, what's the possible value of this digital asset or whatever you want to call it? And you say, like, well, okay, it could be gold 2.0, it could be a currency, it could act as both of these things at once, and then if it really was this thing, then what would the market cap of it be? So like you take like a best case scenario. So
And the cap is finite. We all have to know that.
Yes. Yes. There's only a certain number of Bitcoins that will ever be produced, and that's in the code and blah, 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 blah. So it's very easy to calculate its value. Whereas with like other altcoins, like if you're talking about Ethereum or Link or these, you can't. It's very hard to calculate the value because.
Can I ask though? Isn't a fiat currency now not tied to gold? So how do we assign a value to that too?
There is no value. Fiat currency doesn't have a value in that way because it is a currency. Whereas what Bitcoin is masquerading as or may actually be is a digital asset like gold. So a currency, you can have as much or as little of it as you want, and then you get inflation or deflation. Whereas a digital asset or gold doesn't necessarily have those same issues because people are just parking their money in it to avoid inflation, not necessarily parking in it to avoid deflation because that ain't gonna work. And that's one of the problems with Bitcoin way down the road. It becomes deflationary, blah, blah, blah. But if you just say like, let's say it takes half of gold's market cap for some reason. I mean, I just make the fucking shit up. So like gold is like a $10 trillion asset or something. So what if Bitcoin becomes a $5 trillion asset? Well, that would put you at something like $300,000 a coin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then at that point in time, it just sort of becomes gambling.
I mean, it kind of always has, right? The
Right.
market kind of is anyway, even the stock market. Can I
Right.
ask you real quick, when our currency, American currency, was associated to gold before, I think Reagan disassociated it, right? Turned it into a fiat. Was it was it was it affected by inflation at that time too?
Well, what it was affected by before it was, when it was on the gold standard, was deflation. So you would end up not having enough money to grow the economy. That's the problem. Like, this will get very wonky, but like, let's say we just bartered, like I traded you one green widget for one blue widget, right? And then a guy invented eyeglasses and everybody was able to make more widgets. And then he sold his eyeglasses for one green widget, one blue widget, and everybody's able to make, and he thought he would retire with those, but everybody's able to make more widgets, and you can no longer buy what you need with the widgets that you have,
Right.
because the entire
Because of
economy has
inflation, yes.
inflated. That's not a bad thing. Like, people always talk about inflation as a bad thing, but that's actually a good thing, because inflation can happen through increases in productivity and technology. Okay.
Well, we want the inflation not to be too much, too
Yes.
fast. That's what it is.
What happens is, so now you say it's really inefficient to trade green and blue and brown and gold and all these different widgets. Why don't we just have a currency that represents the widgets? Okay.
Right.
Something, a means of trade that represents the widgets. So as long as the currency that represents the trading of the widgets increases at the size that the economy increases, you're not actually going to get inflation, even though you have far more currency. Okay.
But aren't they printing money faster than the growth of the economy?
Right now they are, yes. And
Right.
that right now we sort of have a problem.
We're going towards Zimbabwe type of currency, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Not that bad.
Like, it's very small problem, but there's a problem. Like, you can look, there's reports that you can just Google, like total currency supply and things like this, and you'll see that the supply of dollars has gone just sort of like way up. It's curving
Exponentially
up,
grown.
and it's because the central banks are quote unquote printing money. This is a misnomer, though. They don't actually print money. They print it and then loan it. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is an important point, because they loan it to the banks and they loan it to the government through bonds. All right. So when people talk all the time about the government printing money or the central banks printing money, the thing that they never talk about is the central banks also can destroy money. So they say printing press go brrr, right? But printing press also goes shred. So if people start to pay back the loans and the central banks pay back the loans and if the government pays off the bonds, then that all comes back to the central bank, and then the central bank takes that money out of circulation. So the circulation supply sort of breathes. Right now, the problem is that all the breath is going towards printing. But I expect that will probably change, because we're going to have Democrat Congress, Democrat president, right, for the first time in a long time. And the one thing that Democrats do is tax. So you're going to see taxes on the 1%, maybe the 2%. They're going to really ramp up right now. And so what happens is when taxes ramp up, then money comes in, and then that money gets taken out of circulation. They don't pay it all back. Generally, they pay down debt with a certain percentage of it. So we might see the monetary supply start to slope back down. It's always hard to know for sure what's going to happen, but if you keep your eye on these things and you listen to what people are saying, then you can get an idea for, like, this is probably what's going on. This is probably what's going to happen in the very near future. So, like, I don't know.
So will bonds be a better investment now?
Bonds will start paying a higher interest rate very soon. That's my prediction. But
because I think they're like below 2% right now.
Yeah, right now they're just a joke. And the reason why they're a joke is because the central banks are buying bonds at such a rate that it makes it so that there's a giant demand for bonds, and because the demand is so high, they don't have a very high interest rate. Their yield is very fucking low. But when the demand goes down, the yield is going to increase. Now, you need that yield to increase above the price of inflation for the bond to actually be worth anything, and you really need it to increase above a replacement investment for you to want to hold them. So like replacement investments would be equities, real estate, Bitcoin, precious metals, things like this.
Yeah, no, it's never going to replace Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin's fucking skyrocketing.
So the situation right now is Bitcoins could easily be $300,000 a coin. There's absolutely no reason why it couldn't be. And I'm not saying that as a bubble prediction. I'm saying that as just like flat out facts. If Michael Saylor and Jack Dorsey and these people that are putting hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into Bitcoin, Scaramucci, fucking you name it. If these people are right, they're sort of creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. They're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy for Bitcoin. And if that self-fulfilling prophecy plays itself out, the end game, based on any math you want to do, is hundreds of thousands of dollars a coin, which sounds fucking nuts. But when you could buy a pizza with 5,000 Bitcoin, $10 a coin sounded nuts. And every single step of the way of Bitcoin has sounded nuts. So the next step really is not nuts at all. And the thing about, like, here's the thing about Bitcoin. The reason why it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy is networks have value, okay? So every time somebody gets some Bitcoin, they're now part of the network. They care about Bitcoin. They learn about how to spend it, how to save it, blah, 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 how to hold it, wallets, yada, yada.
Ledgers.
They become emotionally invested in this fucking stupid thing that they have, right? So just like if you have a Facebook account, you become emotionally invested in your Facebook account or your Twitter account. So these social networks, there are mathematical equations meant to show the value of networks. It's called Metcalfe's law. And so you can apply Metcalfe's law to Bitcoin and that's why people say like, oh, it has no utility or it isn't worth anything or it's just code. No, it's a fucking network of real fucking humans. And you can put a physical value on that stands the test of time through a regression analysis. Like, so it's a risky fucking thing, but it's not as risky as like some goofy Luddite would say. So here's the reason why I'm here. Let me tell you. I've never actually bought a Bitcoin. Yet I own a fucking shit ton of Bitcoin over time.
You bought it.
I buy it through proxies like GBTC or now MSTR, or even when you hold Bitcoin on Coinbase or Binance, well, maybe not Binance, but on Coinbase for sure, you don't actually hold the coins. It's the same way as if you have thousands and thousands of dollars on PayPal. You don't actually have any money.
Right.
PayPal, if you pay somebody, PayPal just deducts from your ledger because no money ever actually moves, right? It's the same thing with Bitcoin on like Coinbase, for instance. You don't actually own any of the coins. So like when people started paying me these election bets, like they want to pay in Bitcoin because let's just be honest, it's for crime. So then I end up with this really giant balance of fucking Bitcoin, and then not giant, but like, I mean, it's enough that I have to pay attention to it. So that's when I like just dig into it. Like, should I sell or should I buy it? Should I sell it or should I hold it? Right? And the decision to sell or hold comes back to this idea that A, it has a measurable value in the real world, and B, it has asymmetric growth. So here's the reason why that's important. Or take a puff.
Yeah, you take a puff, and if you're getting paid in Bitcoin, I have a feeling that you took some bets from Action Ashley.
No, so I know people who did, but not me.
I did.
She's already tapped out, I think. I
She is
mostly take
tapped
bets
out.
from my group of people. Action Ashley wasn't in that group, but I know people who did bet with her, and bet with like other goofballs like Shark Slayer and this and that, and are having trouble. But anyway, so if I were to say to like the other day I posted on Twitter, like sometimes all the things that I suggest don't work out. You know, I've always said like if I could just be right 60% of the time, I rule the fucking world. So like 2 weeks ago, after Tesla was put into the S&P 500, I thought, you know what? Their run is over. Everything has happened. All the institutional money has come in. Tesla now is probably going to revert to something like what it really should be worth, which should be like a comically low number compared to what it's worth now. Okay, but it didn't happen because they fucking keep giving out stimulus checks and people fucking keep using the Robinhood accounts to buy more Tesla. So I just had to dump out of it. So I shorted Tesla. So I had to dump out of that short, lost 7%. Who fucking cares? But that's a symmetric trade, basically. Tesla could drop 50% and I make 50%. Tesla could go up 50% and I lose 50%. It's very symmetric. Bitcoin is not symmetric. If the absolute worst possible thing happens to Bitcoin, it probably goes down to like $12,000. But if the best thing happens to Bitcoin, it goes up to $300,000. So because it's such an asymmetric trade, you should have some money in it. It's basically like free rolling on these mini miracle, you know. So, but people who don't understand or care to understand about Bitcoin, what they will tell you is it could go to zero, but that just isn't true. It's just fucking not true. It could go to zero over a very long period of time, but it can't just drop to zero. It's not physically impossible, but it's the equivalent of finding a McDonald's on the moon or something. It shouldn't be in your calculations.
So I want to talk to you about these election bets that a lot of us have gotten.
Yeah.
And then spin it to what's happened today with these psychopaths who took over the Capitol.
Right.
And so I'm often curious about these people who live under misinformation and conspiracy theories and like believing that the Trump election was rigged and placing bets on it. And I made some money off Action Ashley and a couple other people. But like, what do you think is going on with people, the psychology, or what is going on with like social media that's influencing these people to become extremists almost?
Well, the thing is, it's probably human evolution in this way. If something really bad happens, a certain percentage of the population needs to run directly into gunfire, right? Like a certain percentage of the population basically needs to be cannon fodder. And over history, that is an important part of human race continuing to exist, right? So unfortunately, that gene gets passed down to a lot of people who have no fucking gunfire to run into, all right? And so we're just surrounded by fucking morons because they don't get killed off at the right rate. That's one problem.
That is a very extreme view. But don't you think part of the problem is like this QAnon or whatever, these websites that are spreading misinformation and Fox News and conspiracy theories being allowed to run rampant on YouTube?
Right. And that's the other part. The other part, and this probably relates to the first part, is humans have, a lot of humans, not all humans, have a need to believe in a higher power, right? There's people who've written books like The God Gene and things like this.
Right, because they
And
want to feel special.
yeah, they want it all to mean something, right?
Right.
And it's probably because they have no cannon fire to run into. And so, like, if you uh religion's very old fashioned, just like coins are on. Nobody wants a dollar, they want a Bitcoin. Nobody wants nobody wants to send a letter, they want to go on Facebook, no, or send an email. Like, religions seem very old fashioned because technology is moving faster than the human mind can like catch up. So if you've decided Christianity is stupid, but you're basically a dunce, or if you decided being a Muslim is stupid, but you're still basically a dunce, or if you've decided that Judaism is horrible, but you're still basically a dunce, well, then then you got to fill your dunce quotient. And so they find other religions, and the other religions are these fucking crazy conspiracy theories. And the funny thing about conspiracy theories for a gambler is they're much easier to bet on because they sort of have they keep having finite endpoints. And whereas, like, if somebody says, Christ is coming back, I could bet them, but I'm never going to get to collect, you know?
Yeah. So have you talked to Bart Hansen about this at all? He has an interesting theory in that.
You know, I used to work with Bart, right?
Yeah, I know, on Live at the Bike. Him and I are friends, and
I'm not, and that's fine. And I don't say anybody should not be friends with Bart. But me and Bart used to be like very good friends at one point and business partners, but we don't talk anymore.
You guys used to be best friends. I know that.
We used to have a very good relationship, and there's a lot of good things about Bart, but we don't talk anymore.
So this is one good thing about Bart. Bart and I talked about how he thinks there's going to be a misinformation market for us to make money off of because of these conspiracy theorist, minded people who, are buying and eating up this false information and willing to put money on it.
Of course. It'll dry up at some point. They'll just not bet you anymore. Like, it's going to be hard to keep getting action. But yeah, right now, I mean, there was a mini gold rush from the first Trump election where I lost a fucking bunch of money until this one, right? It was still a mini gold rush because there were still things that you could bet on. Like, I had a whole bunch of bets on Trump being impeached. And of course I won all those. And the people, and some of this is done on offshore books or whatever, where the line is bad, but not horrible. And some of it's done with like true believers where you can just give them even money and they'll fucking take it because they just think like it's either going to happen or not happen. They don't actually like understand the workings of any of it. But then the problem with that is sometimes it becomes hard to collect. Bart makes people post 100%, which some people would say is very smart, and it is smart in some ways. But if you make people post 100%, then you give up a lot of bets of people who would only bet on credit. And you just have to understand, like, sports betting, booking sports bets for like the entire existence of sports betting has been on 100% on almost 100% on credit. You very rarely make somebody post if you're a bookie. And so, like, if you've been dealing with people over years in different types of betting situations, then you have to take their bets on credit, whatever. And it does open up a secondary market of bets of people who will only bet on credit but are good for it. But then, of course, there's always going to be some people who just aren't good for it. You know, they just stiff you. I've been stiffed for so much fucking money I can't even remember it all, you know. But it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, it's not enough to make it not worthwhile to extend credit. And I never complain, too. This is one thing that is important. This is also about being a sport. This goes back to being a sport. I've been stiffed by offshore books. I've been stiffed by poker sites. I've been stiffed by individuals. And I almost never say anything. Almost never. It has to be a very specific situation where it's warranted to help somebody else. But in general, I don't say anything because I knew what I was getting into. Like, I think people who like go and they like play money, let's say they go play poker on an offshore site, and then that's fucking located in Gibraltar. They don't know any fucking person associated with it, and then the site doesn't pay them. And I think when a person complains about that, they're just like a complete bitch. Like, you knew that should have been part of your profit and loss statement for the year as a professional gambler. That should have been part of your expected write-off, that you're going to do something like this. You're going to play on an illegal gambling site in a fucking foreign country. Don't come bitching to me when the last part of your deposit gets taken away. Oh, I was holding my entire bankroll on there. Are you fucking retarded? You know, like, I don't, like, when people tweet that, I'm just like, you're so fucking dumb. You should be embarrassed to tweet this. They think they're like doing alert. Don't deposit all your money on this site. Alert. Who the fuck are you alerting, you idiot? Like, anybody with fucking half a brain already knew that, you know? So, like, that's, I don't know, that's just a tangent. It's something that always makes me not think that somebody's not a sport or doesn't understand the way gambling works. Like, there's no time for whining and complaining. You have to take all that into consideration when you make the bet, okay? Now, obviously, there are some very specific circumstances, like if I went to a casino in Las Vegas and they did that, then of course you should say something, because you have no expectation of being stiffed. You have no expectation of getting a counterfeit chip. You have no expectation of being cheated. That is important information the world needs to know if a publicly traded company or a legal operation in the United States does something illegal. But if you are on a fucking illegal offshore betting site, shut the fuck up. You know, that's my feeling. Or if you're booking bets with some fucking idiot down at the casino, just shut the fuck up. You knew that these were all possibilities. You know, that's sort of the way I feel about it. Anyway.
Well, I heard through the grapevine that when I first went public with Mike Postle cheating, you thought I was wrong. I just wanted to throw that out there.
I'm not sure if that's true.
I think Wayne told me. Wayne's a little bit gossipy, I just have to say.
I don't know if that's true. Somebody would have to find where I said it.
I'm just bugging you.
You know that, like,
most people thought he wasn't cheating initially, so it's like I'm just kind of joking.
Oh no, but that has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. I was making a bad joke. So
but believe me, like, if I said it, I would say it to your face, right? Like, I have no problem with that.
Right.
But I don't remember what my
I just remember someone telling me, like, oh, Limon didn't think that Limon thought you were wrong. And I was like, oh, be still my heart. Limon?
That's impossible. What happened was, here's what I think happened. When it was originally said that the guy was cheating, I was like, well, what's the stakes of the game? And somebody said like $1, $3 or something. And I said, it's impossible. Why the fuck would somebody cheat a tiny game like that? That's what I said. I don't know if I was even right. That's what I said.
Yeah. No, I'm not mad at you.
But
sorry.
I don't think that had any, I never even remember your name. Your name would have never came up. What came up to me was like, I was thinking, because I guess I was just thinking much more big, like, holy fuck, if I could cheat the game, I would be like, let's spread a 100, 200 game.
Yeah, I mean, they did spread some bigger games, that's for sure. But
when I was initially told about it, they said that they were playing $1, $3.
Yeah, we were, but it's a stack match game, so played a lot bigger. He was making like 20,000 in a 1-3 game.
Wow. So yeah, it was real money, you know.
Yeah.
I happily concede that I was wrong about my point. If they could make real money. Because, I mean, I've dealt with a lot of cheaters over the years, and I've even been recruited to be on cheating teams. And that's not the way that professional cheaters, operate. Professional cheaters are like massive, fast hit and run guys. You know, they're like, who is that super fucking fat guy who cheated everybody on Ultimate?
You're talking about the owner?
Russ Hamilton. Russ
Hamilton. Ironically, he is Mike Postle's friend, good friend.
So it seems like he would have told him, like, don't nickel and dime the situation. Nickel and dime the situation is how you get caught. The way that you do it is you hit the biggest fucking game as hard as you fucking can, because nobody has time to put together the fucking pieces, and you've already made $100,000.
Yeah,
Like,
get the fuck out.
yeah, get the fuck out and then do it again in 6 months. You don't dribble out cheating every fucking week for 6 months, because you're obviously going to get caught. There's too much data. You accumulate too much data, and it just becomes like, even if you weren't cheating, it just looks like you were. Whereas,
Ladies and gentlemen, How to Cheat by Limon.
I mean, I used to know when I first started playing poker in like the late 90s, cheating was a really big deal. And
As in, it happened a lot?
happened a lot, and it was just sort of part of the game. Like,
How were people cheating back then?
well, basically what they would do is they would work as a team. So there'd be like the table would have 9 people, but 5 of them were playing together. And
Oh.
and what they would do is, and this was why it was so insidious and hard to catch, was they did what was called best handing. So all 5 people would signal their hands to each other, and everyone would fold except for the best hand. Okay? So if somebody on the team had aces and somebody on the team had kings, the kings just open muck. You only play against the suckers only play against the best hand. So they never get odds. All right? So they're always just it just wipes them up, but there's no way for the floor or anybody to know it, because nobody ever knows you mucked kings.
Right.
So there was a lot of like best handing teams, and then they would do like, depending on how greedy they thought they could be in a certain situations, they would whipsaw people or yada yada yada. But that's what would happen. And one of the guys who hey Bug, one of the guys who was big into this was a guy named Russ Georgiev. He worked out of a Crystal Park casino, and he would give you a card that said, Russ the Seal Georgiev, I eat fish. Okay? And it'd have like his phone number. Like, this is how long ago this was. There's no fucking internet. There's nothing, right? Use business cards to recruit other cheaters. So just before online sort of came about, he had said, like, you got to come see what I've got going on here, because they don't, like, I was sort of like one of the winners in these players pool, and they just assume that you would cheat, because why wouldn't you? Like, that's why when people say like, oh, Doyle cheated and Amarillo Slim cheated and Puggy Person cheated, and then they basically all did. It's because nobody cared. Like, Johnny must cheat. Like, it was part of, like, when I first came into poker, it was sort of part of the way it worked, was like, this person's going to lose all their money to you either in 10 hours or 1 hour. What the fuck do you care? That was like the mindset of people back then, like, of a lot of the like grinder types, was like, what difference does it make how fast they lose it? Like, just take it. It's there. It's in the game, right? So like, they try to. I never did, though. I never fucking cheated. They tried to recruit me but I was a young guy. Like, they were like, oh, this guy's gonna be fucking broke. He doesn't want to do any of the shit that we do. But I didn't want to have any fucking part in it. I never had any fucking part in it. But they started, as soon as online poker started, they switched 100% of their cheating to online, because then you couldn't get caught, and you couldn't get beat up in the parking lot, and you couldn't get stiffed, and it solved a lot of problems for the cheating teams. And that's why early online poker is just a cesspool of cheating, just a fucking den of fucking cheating. Now, it didn't mean you couldn't make money, because there's also a lot of bad players, but there's so much fucking cheating in the original online poker. It's unreal.
What about now? What do you think of real-time solvers now? And I mean, I've talked to several people who said that, some of the quote-unquote best players are using real-time solvers and are essentially cheating.
I mean, I know a few people in that game, in like the sort of like, who are still in the online poker game, who have an office in Mexico and blah, 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 or Canada. And they all do that. That's just fucking, that's the price of entry. They can, like, maybe they have like a setup that makes all of their decisions up until like in-game situations. It helps them play more tables. It helps them make correct decisions even in big games. I think it's just the price of admission now. I mean, at some point, it'll just be one computer playing against another computer.
Right. And so I'm curious what you think of like the future of poker. Obviously, live is always like slow to adapt to, like we don't have real time solving when we're playing live, but they're definitely going home and solving. What do you
Right.
think about the economy of poker right now, besides obviously COVID slowing
Right.
things down?
I think that poker is a dying thing, right? And I've been saying that for a while, and it was dying. And now with COVID, I think it's going to accelerate the death. I would be surprised if cash games are ever the way that they were pre-COVID ever again. That's my prediction. I think that just from like the people who I golf with and bet sports with or bet this and that with, like people who in these circles, I think a lot of them, after having not played for poker for such a long time or tried going to private games and feeling like they got cheated or lost or being afraid of getting COVID and a lot of people got sick and this and that, I feel like a lot of them just aren't going to come back. And I also feel like a certain small percentage are dead. It just is what it is. And the thing about when people die when an old person dies or doesn't come back or goes broke, and a young person takes their place, the young person is never as bad as they were.
Yeah.
Never. Fucking never. It's not even close, because young people have access to so much information now. Like in the 90s, when I would come into casino as a young guy, I was the fish. Everyone immediately assumed I was fucking horrible at poker, and just for a little while that might have been true. Because there's no way for me to learn. So anytime any of us who were winning players back then would see a young person, they were 100% fish. 100%. Not even 99%. They're fucking 100% fish. Because there was no fucking way for them to know how to play cards. Whereas now, the younger they are, the better they are.
Yeah.
Like they've played a million fucking hands online, and they just come in and they're already just like right out the gate, very fucking good players. Even if they have a gambling problem, even if they have leaks, they're still good. Like there's certain things that they know not to do that just like and then because the rake only goes up, if the rake keeps going up, but the player pool keeps getting better, at some point you pass an equilibrium where there's just no money to be made. And we're basically there already. So like,
We're there online or are we there live, you think?
everywhere. And here's what I mean. Can you win money? Yes. Is it an efficient way to earn a living? No. When I was a vice president of a finance company. I went from vice president of a finance company to playing cards. I didn't really give up anything in that I was making a lot of money playing cards against horrible fucking players, right? Now, I would be far better off just staying vice president or trying to become CFO. Like, the path to keep making that level of money just doesn't exist. There just isn't like a big pool of fucking dead money waiting for you. So if you have the intelligence level to be a professional at another job, it's probably a more efficient way to earn a living than poker. Whereas at one point in time, poker plus like card counting plus advantage play plus maybe booking sport bet, I forget. Those things were just a far more fun and efficient way for me to make money than fucking sitting in an office on spreadsheets all day. But now, if I had to come into the pool now, I would probably just stay at my job, because the pool now is not an efficient way to make money if you're a very, very smart person, because very, very smart person has a lot of avenues. So there's so many other avenues. The avenue of gambling professional is more of like a dark, dingy street, whereas it used to just be like a freeway. You just drove down it. Like there's nothing in your way. Everyone sucked. Everyone was stupid. So I would never encourage, like I used to encourage people to learn how to play poker, learn how to count cards, learn how to book sports bets, blah, blah, blah. I would never encourage that now. Because if you're smart enough to do all those things for a living, you're just too fucking sharp to be wasting your time in poker.
Yeah, there was a time I even made money playing poker.
You're too sharp. You're too sharp not to. But then at some point, it just becomes a waste of brain power. It's like, I have to fucking like go home and work on a fucking solver to beat people at PLO and fucking Commerce Casino. Are you fucking kidding me? I didn't sign up for this. I never signed up for this. I'm not doing that. It's like all that fucking brain power for like such a small return. It just doesn't make any sense to me personally. Luckily, I already got mine.
Yeah, you're doing very well. You've always done very well. I do remember all your stock predictions. I should have fucking listened to you. Before we finish, I want to ask you, today Mitch McConnell was on the Senate floor talking about, that we need to uphold the law. We need to have this fair election play out.
Right.
They basically needed to count, or what were they doing? They were counting the certifications from each state.
They were trying to do theater for the drooling imbeciles outside. They're like, if we just do this theater, the drooling imbeciles,
it's all done.
They'll disperse. But the drooling imbeciles had another idea. They wanted to run into fucking cannon fire. They were born to run into cannon fire.
Right. And it's just amazing to me. I think the most amazing thing was when the Black Lives Matter movement had a peaceful protest. Did you see the pictures of the Capitol with all the police officers guarding the Capitol? And they knew this was going to happen today. They have intelligence. They have sources. And what did they do? They basically let them in and they weren't prepared.
Yeah.
And no one got killed. I mean, I think one person got killed, but if it was a Black Lives Matter movement, they would like open fire on the crowd.
Well, black people are scary. I mean, that's what
they're thinking. Yeah. So tell me your thoughts on everything that's happened today. I'm just in shock, by the way.
Well, this is the trouble. The trouble is that Donald Trump is basically an agent of chaos. He's a life failure. He was bestowed hundreds of millions of dollars as a fucking child, and he's basically wasted his whole life losing it. In order to stay in action, he's constantly involved in some new scam. Unfortunately, the best scam became being president. And he found a willing army of idiots to basically have fun with. I mean, to him, it's all a game. At some point in time, people who have been there and know better, even the Mitch McConnells of the world, they need to say, this was an insurrection. These are seditionists. Let's just hang 10 of them out in front of the fucking White House. Something needs to happen because so many people have grown up in this world that they think that it can't change. But it's a very thin veneer on top of chaos. The fun world we live in where I get to drink margaritas and we get to have a fun conversation on Zoom is a very, very thin veneer on top of fucking complete chaos. And if you let the chaos keep bubbling up and it breaches like a little volcano, like fucking lava breaching through, the next thing you know, everybody's getting burnt to death. And you're like, how did it happen? You gotta fucking push that shit down.
So tell me, is Trump that opening for the chaos to spill over? Was he the means that allowed the KKK and all these extremist groups to now have a voice and feel that they have a leader?
Oh yes, 100%. Trump, here's the thing. I don't know. I grew up in basically rural Oregon. Okay, so I grew up with people who are Trump supporters. I know people like this, and I know a lot of Trump supporters even in Los Angeles, which people think is crazy, but there's a lot of them. Trump supporters are mediocre white people. That's who Trump supporters are. They their goal in life is basically to be a middle manager. Like, if you could just, like, your brother-in-law or your dad gives you a fucking job as a middle manager. You have a car and a wife and a kid and a house, and everything goes cool. You never actually have to compete, right? So taking that away from millions of mediocre people is intensely painful, okay? Because what if they actually had to compete? What if they actually had to come to a level playing field and meet you on a level playing field? Like, their life is just turned upside down. So then you think, like, who is the poster boy for a mediocre white man? It's Donald Trump. He's the fucking most mediocre white man you're ever going to meet in your life. He's mediocre at everything. He bankrupts his businesses. He loses his daddy's money. He fucking does.
He paid someone to finish school for him.
He pays. He fucking gets a mail order bride, and then he fucks a hooker while he has a mail order bride. Like, he's just the most mediocre white man ever. Then you say, like, why would you follow this mediocre guy? Because that mediocre guy knows your plight. He really does. Like, they are right. Donald Trump is the best guy. Like, they're not wrong about that. He is the best guy for him. If Donald Trump can be president of the United States, then every mediocre kid that I grew up with can be president of the United States, sort of, in a sort of a weird way. Like, they can be middle manager. They can have a certain life bestowed on them through strictly privilege and nothing else, never competing on a level playing field. And that's why, like, people always say, like, they talk about white privilege, right? Which is a real thing that I've even benefited from in my life. And then I say, like, I'll tell them, like, there's one place where I've never seen white privilege, and that's, like, this goes back to poker. It's like the poker table. At the poker table, you have to compete on a level playing field. And at the poker table, old white guys are always the fish. In the real world, an older white man is never the fish. He has lots of privilege. At every fucking level, he has privilege. But at the poker table, when all of his privilege is stripped away, what do all old white men become? Fucking fish. And they know it. In their heart of hearts, they know they cannot fucking compete. And so when they see another person who cannot fucking compete rise to the highest levels, it makes them feel good. And it makes them feel energized. He is the god of the stupid. That's what he is. He's the hero of the stupid. And so when you look at it in that way, I think it actually sort of starts to make sense.
So, do you think Trump believes that he actually won the election, or is this just a part of his tactics?
Fuck no! He knows everything.
Smart enough to know he lost.
Oh, he knows. But he knows that every time he says he won, he collects $1 million in donations.
Right.
Like, there's a guy that you probably follow on Twitter, and I follow on Twitter.
I just want to say people are not reading the fine print for those donations because a lot of them he's pocketing.
No, he pockets it all. Yeah, and there's people that post his that follow that, like, are on his mailing list, and they're getting like 30 emails a day. Like, if you don't send $5 now, it all ends. If you don't send $5 now, it all ends. If you don't send $5 now, it all ends. And he's just raking it in because, like, he's a con man, and that's what con men do. And he knows that as soon as he goes out of office on the 20th, which is going to happen, that starts to slowly dry up. He gets Sarah Palin. Like, it slowly goes away. Like, you're just not you're not the it guy anymore. You're not the hot commodity. Another idiot will pop up. And so he's getting all the money he can while he can. And he doesn't care if he fucks the country while he does it, because he doesn't care about the country. He was never supposed to be the president of the United States.
You think he's a narcissist?
Oh, of course. Of course. I mean, depending on if that's an official definition. If you look at what an official definition is, there's like 20 boxes and you just check them all, I guess.
Well, I'm curious, before I let you go and drink your margarita, what you think about Pence.
Pence is he's like a bitch boy. Like, he's a path of least resistance to get. He is obviously, like, really wants power, and he thought that he knew how to get it through being Trump's bitch boy, but it's all can end up crashing down on him. He's not going to get it.
Did you see his Twitter?
What did he do now?
He put a picture of Joe Biden Joe Biden and Kamala Harris up as his background.
Oh my God!
Kind of sent a message out. Isn't that
So
strong?
he's going full opposite.
That is the only good thing he's done in these 4 years, I think. I really despise him mostly, but I think he really believes in the Constitution and our, the American voting system. So
That's what they say. They all say like, it's bad, but imagine if I wasn't there. That's what they all say. I don't know. Maybe. I think it. I don't know if I buy that story, but at least he's pretending to do the right thing, which is actually, when you're an important person with millions of followers, just pretending the right thing is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Pretending
Right.
is almost as good as doing. So if he's pretending, fucking kudos. More power to him.
good. I can't believe I've ever given credit to Mike Pence. I really just fucking hate that creationist, loving, God-fearing man.
He is an opportunist, and he doesn't see the opportunity with Trump right now. That's for sure. Nobody should.
Yeah, he's taking his wagon off that hitch.
Right.
So. All right, Limon, I really appreciate your time. I completely adore you. I'm so happy you're back on Twitter.
Yeah, Infinite Stacks at Infinite Stacks.
Oh, your Twitter handle is going to be right below you the entire time.
Always, like, I'll tell somebody, they'll say like, "You're back on Twitter? Are you back?" Yeah, like, what is at Infinite Stacks? They're like, what the fuck is that? I'm like, don't worry about it. I keep getting banned, and so one of my old fans of the show had created this account. They said, just use it. I said, okay.
Yeah. And any like what's Limon doing in 2021? What can we expect from you besides your Twitter?
Yeah, I mean, almost nothing. I'm retired. I'm cooking duck right now. It's roasting right now. If you want to play golf, find me. If the casino's ever open, I'll probably be there. I don't know. I mean, it's very mellow.
I imagine being retired in your 40s. Holy fuck. I really should get a sugar daddy. This whole independent thing is so overrated. If Bitcoin just goes to 1 million, I'll be happy, okay?
Well, it might go to 300,000, so you're going to need enough to make sure. You're going to need at least a single girl could probably retire on 3 million, so you just need 10 Bitcoin.
That's it?
That's it.
You know, Andrew Barber is my best friend, right?
Yeah, I know him.
2018, I called him up and I was like, hey, I sold some property. Like, what do you think I should invest it in? And he's like, 100% of your money should go into Bitcoin.
Right.
It was 3,200 back then. And I was like, I'm not going to buy too much.
Right. Yeah, but hindsight's always 2020.
Hindsight is always 2020.
So that's, you can't.
I also regret not buying Tesla at the beginning of 2020.
Well, hindsight's always 2020. You just got to do your due diligence.
That's okay. I'm just pumping it into that 6% retirement fund that I've got going. That's what I'm doing.
Do you, could you be classified as a first-time home buyer?
I don't know, because I've owned 2 homes in the state.
If based on your divorce or whatever, you could be classified again as a first-time home buyer, the best possible investment, bar none, not close, nothing fucking else matters, is to buy a 4-unit property and live in one of the units.
Yeah,
and
for
then,
sure.
Until the
Yeah, it's not going to happen in San Jose, but I was thinking about Vegas potentially.
Yeah, it's basically like printing money. It's like the easiest fucking no-brainer investment in the history of the fucking universe. Every fucking person who does it ends up being like, how the fuck does everyone not know this? I live in whatever my McMansion is somewhere, and that fucking 4-unit property just pays me $10,000 a month every fucking month, and I never worry about anything ever. Like not me personally, but like just people who do it. For a while, you're gonna have to live in one of the units and fucking plunge toilets. Yes, but because of the way real estate works in most markets, you grow out of that really fast and move on. It just becomes a money printing machine.
Yes, I have heard of these things. Yes.
Okay. That's my only advice there.
All right, Limon, have a wonderful rest of your day. I love you, and I'm so happy you were able to meet up with me and see you, I guess, on Twitter.
Thank you for inviting me. I had an amazing time.
It was my pleasure.
Oh, baby. What up?